Welcome back to the Dagnabbit Boys episode. What episode are we on?
54.
Welcome to episode 54. It'll be titled Unforgiven.
Is that a movie?
It's a movie with Clint Eastwood, one of his best.
No, we got to do the movies that my great-grandfather was in.
We talked about it. They were shit.
They're not shit.
They were sucked.
They were good movies.
Okay, I had heard of Hired Gun.
Yeah.
And there's another one I had heard of. I think he was in some Anthony Mann or something.
For everybody listening, my great-grandfather, Pierce Lydon, took some time off, all the time off possible.
It's crazy his name's Pierce Lydon because everybody that listens to the podcast wants to Pierce Lydon with a knife.
Yeah. Well, I don't have the charisma he had to be a background character and stuntman in Western movies. But this is a country Western podcast.
Yes, and we've won every fight we've ever fought.
And, you know, even though I am from California, what I've learned from listening to outlaw country artists is that you don't actually have to be from the South to be an outlaw country artist.
Yeah, I completely forgot that David Allan Coe was from Ohio.
I mean, I just feel like a lot of those guys, you find out where they're from, and they're just like a guy from Michigan.
Well, they're from, like, I don't know, like, the Midwest in some ways, like certain parts, because David Allan Coe's from Akron, which is like kind of isn't that part of the steel Rust Belt?
Yeah.
Rust Belt's kind of a similar sort of like working class.
Yeah, it's not like he's from a mansion.
Yeah.
But it is interesting because a lot of those guys, like, especially like him very directly, like he has a whole album that's like Son of the South.
Yeah.
And he's not. Which is, I'm not sitting here calling him a liar. It makes me feel better. It makes him look at them more as artists about how it's like you kind of start off as somebody and then you can really create a whole person because they sort of create a stage persona that they also are and exist in. I think
for a lot of like poor white people, you have kind of two options as a poor white person that's not from the South. Is you can either be like, I'm black, or you can be like, I'm Southern.
Yeah.
I'm actually either of those things.
Southern identity is really weird in how it's like taken on by other people where it really is like.
But, you know, that's the truth. That's the truth of black too. I mean, black identity.
Totally. Yeah.
Because like working class white people don't really have their closest thing to identity is the trailer park redneck.
Yeah. You can become Eminem or you can become David Allan Coe.
Yeah.
Those are the options as a poor white.
Yeah, essentially.
I was watching that video with a former neo-Nazi, and he was from Michigan. And it's interesting. I feel like those are probably like the most racist places because you might get like more insular, like monocultures.
Midwest is the most segregated part of the country.
Yeah. So it's like, it's interesting because people, when they think of the South, they think of like really racist people.
Yeah.
But in the Midwest and like very northern states, you have these like white suburban kids growing up in white places and then not educating themselves on like the reasons people of color might be living in worse communities.
Yeah.
And then it's easier for them to blame them. Like, the South is like a way more diversified place than those places. So it's just interesting where like the South gets judged so much as being a bunch of like neo-Nazis, but really it's like, no, it's like all these guys that are living in just white communities.
Well,
so I think a lot of neo-Nazis too, I feel like a lot of times it's poor, disgruntled people, but a lot of times I think it's just like sort of suburban kids as well.
I don't know. I mean, I think that the big thing with neo-Nazism is the search for a identification, you know, like identifying with a group and who you are or whatever. And I think that's just way more common amongst like poorer whites than it is middle class whites. But middle class whites still consider themselves like elevated in a lot of ways. And
yeah.
Working class whites are essentially like, well, who am I? Nobody wants me, you know?
Right. You don't really fit into a lot of places. And
especially like poor whites in the suburbs, because you're very insulated.
Yeah. And not that, I think you're right. It's definitely more poor whites. But I think there's an interesting thing with like a suburban white kid like me. It's like, I don't really feel like I have necessarily a culture I fall into. As like sort
But
of
I
a
feel like it's like an invisible culture, you know? And also, you're in
yeah.
a different spot from being from the Valley. Because it's like, I mean, the Valley's just such a different thing than the majority of American suburbs.
Yeah, there's more going on.
It's like an entire city that's a suburb.
Yeah.
But in a lot of ways, LA's that too. So it's like, you know.
But it's like that kind of, I think what you're saying about the invisible identity is true, where it's like we don't really feel it, you know?
Yeah.
Like I'm part of a group, but I don't necessarily feel like I'm part of a group. And I don't feel like I have like an interesting story to tell about my life because you're like a boring suburban kid. And I think sometimes that becomes dangerous when people start to look for meaning. And that's why you get a lot of suburban kids who are sort of just trying on different outfits to be different things.
Yeah.
And sometimes it can be dangerous.
I think
but they're also protected, so they usually just end up getting normal jobs instead of joining like a white supremacist gang.
Well, I think for the most part, one thing about middle class whites is that it's easier to be around people that have shared experiences, you know?
Than poor whites.
Like, I guess when you move, I guess is what I mean. Like, if you like move around to a different area or whatever, then it's like much harder to just acclimate. You just end up hanging out with whoever's poor there.
Right. Because it's kind of like every suburb is the same.
Yeah, but also, I don't know. I feel like the definition of suburb is interesting because you associate suburb with like an area outside of a city, where a suburban suburb just kind of means that it's lower density, you know?
Yeah.
And it's because like there's plenty of areas in the city of LA that are low income that are like technically suburbs.
Yeah.
Like there's parts just like in the city proper.
I think that's what makes the Valley weird, is that 1 million people live there.
Yeah.
And it's not even the entirety of a city, but 1 million people live there.
Well, you're not insulated is a thing. Like you kind of have, but also LA in general, this landmass makes you feel sometimes like you're in no matter where you are, you're in a medium-sized city. There's a similar atmosphere.
Well, because it's just a bunch of different cities.
I have heard friends of mine complain about that Southern California in general just feels like, rather than different cities, like San Bernardino doesn't really feel that much different from LA. Like it just feels like Southern California just kind of feels like a collection of different neighborhoods of varying incomes.
Yeah, you mean like it doesn't feel like a unified city?
Essentially,
yeah.
But
I think it's amorphous.
It's kind of like the what's it called? It's the West, you know, like it's the most perfect example of what the West is. It's gaudy, it's fake, it's large.
You didn't say wild.
The
West is also wild.
West is wild.
It's famously wild.
Yeah.
That should be the first thing you say when you talk about the West.
Somebody said something I was reading an essay where the writer was talking about driving down Sunset Boulevard, just driving up and down Sunset Boulevard for 24 hours. And at the beginning of the article, they refer to LA as the most diverse city in the world, which is kind of an exaggeration, but like I was thinking about what they meant by that. And rather than just like thinking of it as like racially diverse or whatever, I think it just means in terms of like everything is so different all the time and there's no unification between any of it, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's like you can be in Thai Town for like 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Before you drive out of it. And then you're somewhere else.
It's entirely
yeah.
It's pretty crazy.
I think that's why like we don't have as much like identification with the city as New York.
For sure.
Because people
nobody's proud really of this city other than like I feel like the first 2 years you're here, you're kind of proud of it, and then you're just like, well, you know, this is just where I live.
I think the
this
most
is my home, I
like
guess.
LA pride you get is like East LA Mexicans.
Yeah.
You know, of people actually from here that care about it, that engage with the city and like its identities. But yeah, it's not like New York where you're like, if you're in the Bronx, you're in the Bronx.
Yeah.
Like we don't, you know, and it's also like New York is just so much simpler because it's like just separated by water in that way where there's like specific areas and land masses, where in LA, it's like the closest you get to that is sort of like the hills that separate the valley,
I was reading an AMA of a guy who just travels to different cities to fuck the hookers there. And somebody asked him, like, what city has the most hookers per block? And he said, LA by a very, very, very big metric.
Yeah, totally. I mean, just people driving, it's so spread out. And it's just that kind of thing where it's like, I think LA is like scarier because it's like so big. And
Also
so
say-
it's so easy to be like unnoticed.
The hookers I saw in Nashville
We're beautiful.
were like so much less obvious. They have like movie looking hookers out here.
Yes, totally.
They have like, oh, this is what you'd see in a fucking 70s movie looking hookers. And it's like, I didn't know they still made those.
They make them every day.
Like,
They're getting made every day.
It's not just a middle-aged woman standing in one spot for hours.
No. I mean, you get a lady that's like, you just drive by, you're like, that woman's naked.
Yeah.
Like, it's 3 a.m. and that woman is wearing like...
That woman has a dick and a pussy.
Yeah.
She has everything.
She has like a string of clothing on where you're almost like, it's illegal just to be dressed like that.
My mom was in LA for, we stopped by the Rocket near my apartment. I don't remember are they just called Rocket gas stations? Or
I think it's part of like 76 or some shit, but it's just, it's it's a gas station. He's at a gas station
and,
for everybody watching.
This is super close to my apartment, and I was just pumping gas, and this pimp and his hooker, like his whore, walked by, and the guy was just like rapping, but he's rapping away, he's just making weird noises. And the woman was almost completely naked. She wore like her like pussy she had no bottoms, and her top was just like completely see-through. And my mom just looks at that and is silent and goes, some weird people in this town.
Yeah. If she was not dressed like that, could you have been able to tell that was their relationship?
Probably not.
Yeah, what was he dressed like?
I don't fully remember because it wasn't like anything notable. I mean, it was just kind of dirty,
Yeah.
Oh, I got a knife flashed at me yesterday. Did I tell you about that?
At the Comedy Store?
No, when I was walking to the cafe.
During the day? What time?
2 p.m.
Who flashed it at you? A local gang member?
There's a homeless guy. He was, he had his pants pulled all the way down, basically. Not, his dick wasn't out, but his ass was out. It looked like he was shitting in the, he was clearly just on Fent, but I think it looked kind of like he had pulled his pants down to shit on the sidewalk.
Did you tell him to get a job?
No. Well, what happened was the entire it was like there was like multiple tents in there. They all blocked the sidewalk, so I had to like squeeze through the guy, And I slowed down to squeeze through him, and then he kind of just saw me, and he like started to pull the butcher knife out. And I'm not stupid. I know he's pulling it out because he thinks when I slowed down, I was going to rob him. Right? Like, that's what he he's not just pulling it out for no reason.
Yeah.
He's on the defensive because it's fucking spring, and that's when you get robbed if you're homeless.
Why is that?
Because it's hotter, there's more people out. There's more like...
Oh, yeah, it does. There is more crime when it's hot.
Well,
Isn't that weird? Isn't it weird how weather and stuff affects crime?
It's not that weird, I don't think. But...
Well, I mean, it's interesting.
Wait. What was the point?
Not weird.
There's more like weird turf shit. Also, like, yeah, this is my area or whatever.
Well, it's just weird how, like, everybody is like, oh, it's hot, I'm irritated. Yeah. And then it's like, it makes sense that it produces more crime, but it's just interesting, like, the spectrum of that. Because we're walking around not as, like, criminals or homeless people being like, damn, it's hot, I'm pissed off. And then if you're a criminal or you're homeless, you're like, I'm going to stab somebody.
He didn't actually want to stab me, though. Like, He just wanted to protect his stuff, which I get. I did look back at him like, what are you, fucking stupid? Like, I started doing this, like, what?
I'm Shane. I have a book in my hand.
I'm not trying to rob you. I don't want this.
Having a knife pulled on you when you're holding a book is funny.
I was holding 2 books. I was holding a book of William Carlos Williams poetry.
You should have read him some.
Maybe he would have learned something.
You should have
Probably not.
You should have said, hey.
He's just on Fent. He's not. Or he's at least coming down.
You could be like, in the hood, I pull poems on people.
Yeah.
What if instead of pulling knives, we pulled poems?
Yeah.
What if we were a poetry gang where we run up on motherfuckers and do Dada-style poetry about them? And
Well,
then,
none of that sort of stuff, but you go up to a motherfucker and you're just like, hey, where you from? Are you from there? Let me educate you. Then you pull out, like, a textbook or something. You start reading them some fucking poetry.
Okay. Should we do that?
No.
What would we call ourselves?
Well, we shouldn't do that, no.
What should we call
The
ourselves?
badass motherfuckers. But,
The
we
Baroque-
shouldn't do that.
The Baroques?
No, the badass motherfuckers.
The Baroque
But,
ass
we
motherfuckers?
shouldn't definitely not do that. But,
Why?
it's a bad idea. But, my roommate gave me an interesting idea. My roommate asked me, do other comedians look down on you if you fake a stand-up clip? And I said yes. And he said, but what if you fake a stand-up clip, but you bomb? Like you make it look like you're like performing for people, and you just edit in like a couple, like 3 laughs and a cough.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
It would be cool to... It would really... You could also turn it the other way where you'd be a complete liar if you were like, this set was crazy, and then you have like heckles and boos.
Oh, yeah.
Where you're like, I had to fight the crowd on this one, and
No.
it's not even a real crowd.
Oh, New Hamburger does that for the first couple albums. Like, the first couple albums he does are fake. Because he had never performed real stand-up until, like, the early 2000s or something. Because, well, his stuff is, like, novelty. I feel like people associate him with the alt comedy scene, but he's just more like a novelty record guy. Because that's more what he's familiar with.
Yeah, I don't really think of him as a stand-up. I think of it as like almost maybe one-man show-ish.
New Hamburger? No. He's like Weird Al almost. It's like
Yeah, but it's just sort of like you should. I don't know if you should watch it like you watch stand-up.
Also, part of the reason,
Like it's a
the
concept.
Best, I think Neil Hamburger's the best when he's pissing people off too.
I haven't watched a lot of Neil Hamburger, so maybe I'm talking out of my ass. But I think with an act like that, it seems rude to the act and the concept to view it the same way you would view a regular stand-up.
Well, I think you gotta even comparing it to like alt stand-up or whatever. But a big thing about Neil Hamburger is he comes through the guy who plays him, Greg Turkington, is like coming from music rather than comedy, like performing punk music. So he's like a lot of times trying to alienate the audience.
Yeah,
that's part of it.
Yeah, so that's what I mean.
So
like,
if you get a bunch of people that get it, it's like, well, why? Like, that's not really the point.
Yeah, I mean, so maybe like maybe I guess that's what you want is you want a real reaction.
Yeah,
but in that way, it's like it does seem like kind of stupid to watch and be like, this guy sucks.
Yeah,
he's alienating the crowd. It's like, well, yeah, then you're not. So it's almost one of those things where it's like, is getting it lessening, who is the desired audience? Is it the people who don't get it and make it the full concept of a funny show, or is it the people who get it and enjoy it? I think it's just the people that
listen to the records. I think he's more interested in the records like he makes. But at a certain point, he stopped putting out like actual stand-up, I think too many people got it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's weird to have like an elusive act that's like kind of...
He has
intentionally for nobody, I guess.
He has 3 really good albums. Only one of them is actual stand-up. But the one that's actual stand-up is just 30 minutes of him opening for Tenacious D and everyone's pissed. That one's the only real actual stand-up.
They let him do 30?
They let him do 30.
30's so long.
It's awesome. And then the other 2 are all like weird concept albums that are like don't have any real stand-up in them. Like one's just about a pizza place that's like one's just like an audio like it's all like weird character shit. It's like he's stuck in Malaysia, where he's kind of just talking about being stuck in Malaysia and having bad shows and shit. And that's really funny and depressing. And there's another one where he's like, that's like mostly just about a pizza place he would perform at that's closing. That one's like very funny.
Why don't we make a stand-up character?
But the opposite of Neil Hamburger, he's just really good at stand-up. Call him Shane Bianchi.
Well, no, we're not able to do that because we're not funny and we're not talented and we're not charismatic.
Do not tell the audience that.
They know that.
They do
Nobody
not.
watches this for a reason, and it's because we're bad.
We have 7 average viewers.
Yeah, and that's awesome. But what if we do a concept where you're just an outlaw comedian who's really tough, and all you talk about is being a badass, and you just go on stage and you're like, I drank half a bottle of bourbon before I came on stage, and you just sort of stare at the crowd and let them take that in.
Some people do that unintentionally though.
Yeah.
They're like, they just go up and they're like, I crush a lot of pussy.
Yeah, I mean, I do think there is a weird thing of comedians. There's also a new thing that's kind of in the same vein of comedians who say "let's go" in their set.
Oh,
like
yeah.
they do crowd work, or they do something where somebody says something like "I'm drunk," and you're like, "Let's go!" Like, there's a lot of comedians who like aren't really funny, and so they just try and get like excitement happening. Where
Let's
they're like,
go. They make a joke and then they high five the audience in the front row.
It's like white people, like white suburban people who say "yo" and "bro." Where they're like, bro, let's go. You're on fucking mushrooms right now. That's fucking awesome. In the comic, that's like, dude, I love. It's like, it's the same thing as like adults who still think smoking weed is cool. A lot of those comics, that's the same Venn diagram. Is they're just.
Do any of those people still exist in like California?
Yes. You kidding me? They keep moving here.
There's a lot of those guys.
It's because this is
a lot of areas.
California is the number one state for people to move here with an idea of how people act and then just act in a way that nobody actually acts here.
Yeah.
That's why you have like, because I notice this a lot in the comedy scene, is you have like people who think they're hippies because they're from like a suburb where they wore tie-dye. So everybody around them was like, oh, you were a hippie. Like I remember when I was in middle school, they were like, oh yeah, Leah used to be a hippie. She would wear tie-dye. She was a hip, and people just call you that, you know? And then they moved to California, and they're like, I had to move here because I couldn't fit into my town, so I came where all the hippies are.
People don't know that California is more like, like bikers staring at cowboys who are lapping at the hippies, who are afraid they'll get out of here alive.
Praying they'll get out of here alive.
Yeah.
California is no home to hippies anymore. People are like, I'm going to go to L.A., the free love town. And it's like, this is the most racist city in America. Are you kidding me? This is a terrible place with awful people who love materialism and support we make the most money of it. This is a capitalist haven. Like,
it's kind of a libertarian. Damn,
I mean, the taxes and shit.
This big LA episode.
Because we're LA outlaws.
Yeah, I mean, we're California outlaws. We're country. You know?
I mean, the fact of the matter is, all the turkeys moved to Austin, and all the nerds moved to New York. And the only thing left in California is outlaws.
That's the realest shit.
If you want to describe national comedy, it's the outlaws of LA, the turkeys of Austin, and the nerds of New York. The nerds of New York write their little jokes in their little joke books. The turkeys of Austin just say what they saw in cowboy movies to try and seem like badasses. And the outlaws of California are living wild and free, saying anything they want. And that's just the truth of it.
Let's clip this up.
Yes.
Let's clip this up and post this on the New York and Austin Reddits.
Yeah, I mean, it's just true.
I mean, if you don't live in LA, you just aren't dangerous.
The fact of the matter is, if Waylon Jennings...
two dangerous places in America.
If
LA, east side of Detroit. And to me, they're the same.
They're the same. If Waylon Jennings, Willie Nelson, and David Allan Coe were doing stand-up comedy today, the only place for them to be would be in the LA comedy scene. Because they would know that everybody in Austin just got a new pair of boots.
Yeah.
And they would know that they wouldn't fit in with the book nerds of New York. So the only place they could be is in the LA sun, where it beats down on the outlaw who lives wild and free and is living on the run.
That's really true, though.
We absolutely live on the run.
I mean, because LA's so big. I mean, you're just always on the run.
You have to do so much driving.
Yeah.
That's what that song's about.
Yeah, I mean, you drive to Victorville, because you killed somebody in L.A.
Yeah,
nobody's gonna catch you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in the desert now, motherfucker. I'm working with the cartels.
Yeah. So I mean, that's just how it is,
And if you listen to this podcast, you're an honorary outlaw.
That's what the fans of our podcast are called, outlaws.
Yeah.
My fans are called Lydens. What are your fans called?
Oh, it's the Good Taste Bunch.
What a rowdy bunch that is. Yep.
That's for the sophisticated outlaws. This is my stand-up. When I say something like, what if you You ever get your dick sucked without a condom and it feels like she's spitting AIDS down your urethra? That's the type of sophisticated jokes I do.
I just think it would be cool if we started, like, in a very 70s music way, started, like, wearing cowboy hats and, like, long shirts with vest over it, and just started branding ourselves as outlaws. And then we become famous, and then you can withstand the background check. But people look me up, and I'm just from Woodland Hills, California. But I, like, kind of talk in an accent.
Yeah.
And I talk about how, like, I'm an outlaw, and it's my life, and really I, like, don't drink, and I've never
Well, no, definitely don't do a background check on me, because you'll find out I'm from Pacific Palisades, but, like...
Yeah, so that's the thing, is, like, we really, just the way, like, a lot of, the way musicians can create a real character, and comedians can too, though, is the thing, because, like, it's just Dice Clay, but we're cowboys, and who's doing that?
I mean, if you create a character, you're essentially just... Your character is essentially just, who did you grow up with?
Yeah, but what I'm saying...
You're just the pussy of who you grew up with.
Totally. I think about that a lot. I think about that all the time, where I'm like, damn, these outlaw country artists are so badass, but the people actually doing what they talk about doing are, like, criminals.
Yes.
They're just criminals who are
they're like the guys' dads.
They're
like every artist who does a persona is just doing their dad.
But what's interesting, though, is those criminals do need music to listen to.
Yeah.
And so they listen to those guys.
You remember I had a big Warren Zevon kick? And if you read about Warren Zevon, he makes more sense as, like, a nerd who just, like, his dad was a criminal, so he's just like, I'm just gonna do that.
Every musician is, like, kind of a nerd, because they're, like, watching badass guys, and then they're like, I'm gonna write a song about this.
Yeah.
Instead of actually doing those things. Because, like,
that's the problem with reading books, is that when you read books, you start second-guessing shit you do.
How do you mean?
Well, you start thinking about the shit you do, and then you're like, maybe I shouldn't stab this guy. And then you don't.
I just always think it's interesting, like, I was listening to David Allan Coe's song, Bad Behavior. Need a little time off for Bad Behavior.
Live version?
No, it was on, like...
Listen to the live version, he cusses in it.
Holy shit. That sounds even better than the one I'm listening. I'm listening to
you need to listen to the live version of all these songs, because sometimes they'll throw in some cuss.
Because he'll cuss? Holy fucking shit. You should listen to the live version of this podcast.
We cuss a lot.
We record a secondary live version with the same exact words. But I was listening to
But it's at the Comedy Store, and it's kind of at people.
But I was thinking how influential music is on people's lives and their way of thinking about themselves. And I was like, it's really interesting that, like, when he wrote this song, there were just guys with, like, a wife and kids and, like, a job. And then they listened to that and they're like, yeah, I need to take a weekend off to drink, Jack Daniels and cheat on my wife. And it's like, no, you shouldn't do that. Like, if you do that, you just ruin your life. Like, you're just
well, I mean, you can cheat on your wife and be fine.
Yeah, but not,
you can do it a couple
not
times.
internally.
You can do it a couple times.
You live a lie.
Yeah, but you probably what happens is you cheat on your wife and then you just don't think about it for the rest of your life.
Yeah, but then you have to live a lie.
Yeah, but most people do that.
And that becomes the real question is, are outlaws living honestly? Or is to live a lie honest?
To live a lie is kind of honest,
but
in some way.
But maybe the thing with the outlaws is they don't lie. They're pieces of shit, and they tell their woman that you have to understand I'm a rambling man and I will cheat on you. And then the people living the lie are the guys who listen to those songs, cheat on their wife, and don't have the gumption to even admit how much of a piece of shit they are. So they just go to the office and fuck other women and say, I'm like David Allan Coe.
You can tell a truth that's a lie also. You can be like, let's be poly and open. But really, you're just a piece of shit.
Yeah. And that's not outlaw.
It's absolutely not.
If you want to be an outlaw, you either have to...
I think cheating is more morally permissible than polyamory.
Well, I think the type of polyamory where it's one person essentially manipulating their partner and shaming them into it is a really gross way of fucking other people. And probably, yeah, you're right, does more damage than, I guess you'd say, successfully cheating. Now, if you get caught for cheating, honestly, probably still less damage because that person at least has a simple framework to deal with. They go, okay, you're a piece of shit. You cheated on me. I can move on from this. I can actually get power from this and realize I should love myself more. But yeah, with the polyamory, it's like you're making somebody, if they don't want to do it, you're making somebody feel like a bad person for not letting you get fucked.
Yes.
Or fuck.
Yeah, and if any, I mean, so what we're trying to say to all the people that listen to our podcast, if you have a partner, you should have sex with us, and we won't tell anybody.
I'll tell everybody.
Well, you're a pussy bragger, so you kiss and tell, but me? I don't kiss. I don't. Oh, I do kiss, but I don't tell.
I don't believe sex is taboo. I just think it's a normal human function. So if you have sex with me,
I think it's disgusting.
I tell anybody the same way I tell anybody that I took a shit. Where you,
I think taking a shit is disgusting.
No, I think everything's natural. So you're full of shame, which is why you.
Yeah, no.
Which is why you cheat and you hide things.
Well, yeah. I'm like kind of a bad guy, but I'm kind of it's like a tree falls in the forest.
I believe that we're all humans. So when I fuck a guy's girlfriend, I call him and I'd say,
hey, guess what?
Me and your girlfriend engaged in a completely normal human act. And he says, did you fuck my girlfriend? And I say, yeah, but sex is normal. It's not alien.
And if he starts getting mad at you, you start turning around on him where you're like, hey, dude, this does not have to be a violent situation.
Yeah, if a guy tries to beat your ass for fucking his girlfriend, you just tell him that no human nature is alien.
Yeah.
You say it came from Earth, and he says, that makes no difference to me.
Well, you also tell them if they fight you, then you'll call the police, which is...
Of course.
Yeah, you're like, you can punch me, but the police are getting called.
It's
not illegal to fuck your girlfriend, but boy, is it illegal to be hurt.
Yeah, that's what I do. I go up to a guy, and I say, I fucked your girlfriend, and I want you to know if you punch me, I'm going to call the police. I say that all as fast as I can, so he gets all that information at once, where I go...
And then you just look at him all sad, knowing that he can't do the only thing that makes him feel power.
Yeah, I go...
the only thing that'll make him feel normal again.
I go, the one thing you could do that's technically unhealthy, but in this moment would give you a semblance of personage? You can't do it because you'll go to jail. And isn't that kind of weirdly fucked up? That, like, how inhuman that is, where you feel like even a court should defend your right to punch me, but it won't. Because legally, all I've done is come up to you, and then you struck me for no reason.
I think they actually might have, is it a crime of passion? But they'll probably still go to jail.
I mean, nowadays you can punch somebody in the face in LA and not go to jail. Not to sound like a Republican, but I literally did it and didn't go to jail. I assaulted an elderly man.
They have actual stuff to do.
Yeah, exactly. There's like murders and shit. I assaulted an elderly man with like 20 witnesses, and the cops were called. And I remember one time didn't press charges.
The Sisson app is so funny.
Which makes me more outlaw than you, by the way.
Yeah, I've never punched an elderly man.
Yeah, because he was a loudmouth in the corner. He was literally getting to me. And he did not read the sign.
Did he talk about your hair?
He was talking about my jokes, which is even worse than my earring in my hair. And he didn't read the signs that I was an 18-year-old with behavioral issues that I hadn't controlled as much as I do now. And so he got to me. That's also why I just want to say this really quick. I think that's why I am like less susceptible to thinking I'm anything that I'm not, because I'll like listen to like these outlaw country guys and, they'll kind of be like, if somebody fucks with you, you knock them down. And then I just immediately think, well, I did that and it was really pathetic and shameful of me to do. And it was really stupid and not cool at all.
Yeah. I think
even though everybody
that is what's
thought
interesting
it was cool.
About aestheticized violence. It's sometimes it's the most fun when the piece of art you're listening to kind of makes it clear it's fucking pathetic and sad.
Yeah, it's all pathetic. Like, I haven't lived a violent life, but I've just engaged in one act of violence and been like, well, that was gay. That was like, and of course it's much
But
gayer.
also you were hitting an old man.
He's an old man. But also, like, if he was younger, it would have been cooler. But also, it's still the same, like, if you punch a guy in the face because he bothered you, you are being a bitch.
I remember when I first heard about the story, I just thought it was really funny.
Everybody did.
Yeah, it's
nobody
really
was
funny.
Mad at me.
It's like, it's impossible to be like, he's out of his mind. It's just like, yeah, an 8-year-old punched a guy yelling at him.
Yeah.
What are you, like, what?
I felt so bad about it, but the entire comedy scene's reaction was, that was really cool. And I was like, no, it's bad. And everybody was like, no, it's cool. It's awesome you did that.
Yeah, you're also, I mean, being 18 and doing it is also funny because it's like, everybody empathizes with it.
I guess that's the way I feel listening to like songs talking about punching people. I'm like, well, it's just a very 18-year-old thing to do. If you're like a grown man and somebody's bothering you and you punch them in the face, it's like, you really just haven't...
I don't even think the point is that they do it. It's the point is that their defenses are up and it's supposed to show that they live a hard life.
Yeah.
It's not even really that they're It's not even the punching they're really talking about.
Yeah. Well, it's like
It's like, don't fuck with me. I've had a rough go of it.
yeah, the core of the song is really sad.
Yeah.
Where it's like, because of my upbringing, my amygdala is really overactive and I have to be really defensive, and I go straight to like a stress response, and like I don't have like good cognitive skills to work through times of stress and anger, and so I lash out in violence.
Yes.
Where it is very funny that like a lot of music is just like being like, I'm so mentally defective, but it's badass. Like I have so many issues and it's badass. Not even blaming them.
There's kind of a being on the run is kind of not healthy at all. It's like if you're on the run, you never get time to settle down and properly fix your impulses.
No.
Like if you're on the run, you never really have a home ever.
Yeah.
Because you grow up a certain way. Your home isn't your home.
Essentially, outlaw is being addicted to problems. Like and by kind of no fault to your own, but like the way you were raised and the things that have happened to you, you're now in a place where only problems can really give you a sense of self and identity. And without those problems, then you start needing time off for bad behavior.
Yeah, and I mean, this isn't judging it, you know? I don't have any right. Neither of us have any right to be like, that's bad to live.
No. That is the point I'm making. Because once again, I don't believe in free will. And so I'm not saying that any of these guys are stupid because they're doing that. I think that's a really fucked up way to look at people. I think just sort of objectively, it's like, yeah, this is when you've become a full product of the things that have happened to you. And at a certain
point, the most healthy thing that you can do with a lot of those impulses is just to sublimate them into a less destructive form of the same thing.
Music.
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah,
or just like, you know, I feel like I fuck with people, you know? Like,
yes.
That's my, that's a much more lighthearted version of what I was fucking 4 years ago.
I mean, the only reason we do stand up and do this podcast and make the jokes we make is because we're so fucking angry. Like, if we weren't the kind of people that would lead ourselves to this, because that's the way I think about it, where it's like, I still think of a normal life of like wife and kids and a good job as being some sort of weird failure, when really all it is would be like the ability to like be content. Where like if you have any amount of issues, a normal healthy life for some reason just seems like a failure.
Yeah.
But we're in the middle where it's like,
there's so much art about like, isn't it really stupid to be normal?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just because you're like so unhappy and you have such an unquiet mind and you're so angry that living that way would be impossible for you. You'd be a ball of rage. So it's like, instead of being full criminals and alcoholics, we found a way to be like, okay, I can do stand up and be like a piece of shit, but not like a bad one.
Yeah.
You know, where it's like, this is, and I do think that is like the healthy, unhealthy part of stand-up, is you meet a lot of people who don't do stand-up and they'll just say things like, oh, I've just been working so much, I haven't had fun in so long, I feel like so bored. And then our lives of doing stand-up all the time is like, you just get doses of that every day.
Yeah.
So you have every day you have a dose of like going out and being a piece of shit and doing something crazy. Because every time you're doing stand-up, I think if you're doing it honestly, you get the feeling of doing something crazy because you're trying to like transfer some idea. Like, you know, I've been just going on stage just saying Kanye's not a Nazi.
Yeah.
And just defending him the whole time. And so it's like you get that juice.
Did you ever see that bit I do where I'm just defending dogfighting for... Oh, yeah, you have.
Yeah, you've told me about it and I've seen it. Yeah. But yeah.
I want to post that entire thing because it's just in the terms of... Because I have like... It's like 5 minutes of just dog jokes that are loosely connected to the end where I'm just defending dogfighting.
And most people don't get to do that.
Yeah.
Like, it is crazy to think about, like, if you work in an office and you just have, like, a nice family, no point in your life, no setting of your life could you ever defend dogfighting and not have, like, a lot of pushback. Like, your wife would be like, why would you say that? Like, your boss, you'd have to talk to HR. Like,
and you can't make the argument you can with stand-up where you're just like, I was just thinking.
Yeah.
I was just really thinking about it, and I was like, is that bad?
Yeah, I guess for people, it's like the most they get is going out with their friends, where it's like, that's sort of their time to be like, oh, we were bad tonight, where it's like, we drank a few beers and
This podcast is starting to turn into a little bit of like civilians. What's up with these civilians? But also kind of the opposite.
No, not at all. I don't.
We should do an episode that's just that.
Because once again, I'm not saying we do these things because we're fucking awesome.
Yeah.
We just happen to be the people that do these things, and I feel lucky to happen to be the person who does these things. No free will, so I'm just lucky to be who I am.
I have one more point about stand-up, but then...
No, you don't.
I have one more, and I want to get through it quickly, but because I feel like this is a thing we could talk about for a while. It's really weird to me, to people that don't have that kind of slight antisocial edge where they think you're weird if you do weird stuff and they do stand-up.
Yes.
And it's like, then why do you do this?
Yeah, I think stand-up is sort of inherently antisocial.
Yeah, I mean, you're no matter what you do, you're going to make somebody upset at some point, and you're going to have to be fine with it.
Well, that's something I told myself when I was early into stand-up is like, oh, you don't have to go on stage and try and be crazy, because if you're just completely honest about your life, you will be controversial to people.
I mean, it's like...
Any person in the world who tells the truth about themselves will be met with like, whoa.
Even Seinfeld probably has bummed people out.
Totally. I mean, his whole character is being a guy who's like upset with everything.
Yeah.
And he's just really refined that character into sort of this, very recognizable thing. But it's like the way he's acting is wrong.
Yeah.
It's constantly wrong. He's walking into every room being upset about it, being antisocial, being like irritated by somebody. All of the jokes are like, why are people doing this? What's going on? And if he wasn't saying it in stand-up, people just be like, this guy's constantly upset.
Yeah, I mean, if this guy just walked up to you and was like, taxi drivers stink, you'd start thinking like, this is a racist guy. Also, this is a crazy guy.
Yeah, you'd be like, what's your problem? It's like Nate Bargatze saying...
He starts his fucking... One of his specials, which is like top 5 most beloved specials ever, starts with, taxi drivers really smell bad.
Yeah. So it's like Nate Bargatze saying stand-up is a mean speech, where it's just like anything you're doing on stage is always like, even if it's an okay joke, is like kind of not a cool thing to say.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying stand-up, I'm not one of those guys that is like, oh, everything you say on stage should be fucked up. The more fucked up, the better. It's just like almost literally any joke is coming from a place of like, well, that's a little uncouth.
Yeah.
It's a little bit uncouth. And like just the lower ends of that is just like, even just like me talking about how McDonald's employees suck at their jobs. And then I'm saying I like it because of that. But even that, it's just like every opinion is like sort of wrong.
Yeah.
Because we're fucking outlaws.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a stand-up comedian, I mean...
Oh my God.
You got to be twisted. You got to be freaking twisted.
My brain is not... It doesn't look like a normal brain. It looks like a twister.
You know what my brain looks like?
Cowboy hat?
It looks like a fat fucking dump. Because I'm freaking filthy.
Because everything that comes out of it
is fucking gutter shit.
People turn their noses at us.
Yeah.
The other day I was doing a Fallout. At the very end of the night, there's very few people left in the room. Can you explain
to the audience what a Fallout is?
I don't really have to.
Okay.
It's you go up at the end of the night, so nobody's really there.
Thank you.
There was like 10 people there.
Thank you.
And it was going well. Like the people were having a good time. We were making connections. I was getting laughs and stuff. And then one guy in the corner just heavily sighed.
Yeah.
He was by himself, and I go,
did he sigh about your earring or your hair?
Yes. He was the loudmouth in the corner getting to me, which I have a history with. So I was like, oh, I love when a guy just openly sighs. And I was like, this is a weird part of the night where people are here and being like, I don't want to be here. And it's like, you were excited when you came in. Yeah. And you can leave now. And then he got up and left. And it was kind of perfect because a guy obviously didn't like my stand-up because I'm not for everybody. And he didn't like listening to it, and he was being a baby about it so much that he wanted to let the room know by sighing. And then I told him he could leave, and he left. And I'm really glad he left because most people won't leave. Most people just be like, you need to understand I don't like this. And it's like, I already understood that before I got on stage. I did not think that every single one of you would love what I do.
Yeah, I mean, really all you need is like 20% to like it and like 30% to be like, maybe like 40 or 50% to be okay with it.
That's how you rush them.
Yeah, I mean,
god damn. Last night I went up to one guy. There was one guy, and then halfway through another guy walked in the room. And then like there are comics.
Yeah, the audience doubled.
Yeah, the audience doubled. And then at the end of the set I was like, well, I was like, what's your name? What's your name? I was like, all right, John and Ben, it's been an absolute pleasure performing to you. And then he goes, one of the guy that walked in midway through the set, he goes, what is the show? And I go, it's nothing. This is
What is the show?
somebody walking into me on stage performing to one guy is like so creepy. It's like such a creepy room to walk. Like, I meant, because what you're doing essentially, if you take away the context of comedy, it's like you're walking into a room where like one man is trying to make another man laugh.
Doing that job is so funny sometimes because people will come up to you and be like, well, are there any other shows I can watch? And I'm like, well, you can be one of 3 people in the original room.
Yeah. And it's just crazy because that guy walks in, I'm like, he doesn't know what he's walking into.
It's like, I'm not going to charge you.
And that show went on for another hour.
That's so funny.
And I don't know how, because I don't know if those guys stayed, but Don Barris performed to nobody. There was no audience members. It was just the people working the room, and he just did a set. And his entire set is interactive. His entire set, like, relies upon speaking to other people. And he has bits that are funny, but a lot of, like, the fun stuff that I think he likes to do more is actually speak to people. But he also loves stand-up so much that he went up with 0 people in the crowd.
Yeah.
And that, I think,
he probably just did. I think probably he needs to be up there for 15 minutes or he doesn't get paid, I think.
Well, he was just hosting the mic. He didn't even have a set. So
he was hosting?
Well, because he hosts Potluck.
I thought Frasier did.
Frasier switches and then Don takes over and hosts the last half of it. So Don did not need to do a set. Don's only job at that night is to bring people on stage. He gets a set because he's the host and he closes out the room because that's his right. But I don't even think he's getting paid either way. He's getting paid like $50 or whatever to host it. But that is the one thing, and not to talk about comedy more, but I'll say this, then we can talk about dicks or something. But that's what I like about LA comedy the most is that, like, it's a scene with no hype about it, where, like, Austin's really packed right now, and the shows are, like, packed, and the crowds are amazing, and, like, everybody's having fun, and then, like, New York is just always New York. It's just, like, so many shows, it's so many packed. And then we just have, like, this weird space where it's like I performed to one guy and
Our
I'm
best
like
club.
Yes.
The best club in LA. You'll perform for a guy.
What's also fun
perform for John sometimes.
What's also fun what's also fun is a guy from Belgium. What's also fun though is it's not like the club sucks. The club is packed out too. But like on this night of Potluck, you'll just end up with this weird space and I'm like, this is stand up. This just feels like amazing. Like, I feel like I am getting so much better and like learning so much by doing this shitty. Like, I don't want to do good shows all the time. I want to do good shows sometimes, but for the most part, it's like
I do a good show maybe once every 2 months.
And I think
and half of my sets are shows.
Yeah. And I think as long as like you don't start tailoring your act to bad shows or to shock value, then you just get this wonderful thing where it's like, you're eating gruel all the time, and then when you get one good show, you just do so much better. And people are like, that was great. And you're like, well, I performed to one guy usually. And there was 50 people here, and they were excited to see it. So, like, this was great before it started.
Yeah.
And now I feel like I'm calling myself a good stand-up, which I'm not. But performing to one guy is fucking awesome.
It is. It's super funny.
I mean, that's what Saul said, where he's like, I could, like, go to other cities and get more spots. He's like, but this is hard.
Yeah.
That's why I like it. This is hard. Like, if you want stand-up to be easy, you're a fucking pussy.
Yeah. Yeah.
People being like, oh, this scene, we got the best people. The shows are great. I'm like, if the shows are amazing, you probably don't have the best people. Because shitty people can do well. This scene is like dream crushing.
It's awesome.
Which is like the only people doing stand-up in LA are people that really want to do stand-up and then also actors who will just quit soon. It's a hard scene to exist in if you really don't like if you don't like stand-up and you're doing it in LA, you're such an idiot.
One thing I think is funny about LA is like in other cities you'll get threatened with guns for nothing and they never actually, a lot of times they never do anything with it. In LA you get threatened by homeless guys on the street and people that will kill you.
Yes. Yeah, I mean that's the thing is it's funny that LA is considered like a pussy ass city because it's like no, people really die here.
Or I got a knife flashed on me by going while walking to like one of the most pussy fucking coffee shops.
It's a dangerous place. I mean, that's what I like about like LA rap is that like a lot of like LA like gangster rap is like not clever.
Yeah.
It's just like I'm going to kill you. I think that's a very cool reaction to like New York being like, oh, we're amazing with words, and then LA just being like, I'm going to describe how I want to kill you.
Chicago does that too, though.
Yeah, I mean, of course, it's it's not like we're the only ones that do it, but I think we pervade the art of it.
I think it just depends on your gang culture, because gang shit in New York's all about getting money.
Yeah, and our shit is about death.
Yeah,
it's like really
LA and Chicago. It's like there's just so many gangs that it's like, well, a lot of them are just we're the kill the other neighborhood guys.
There's just there's like a praising of death in the music. I mean, that's why. The reason I liked the Drake-Kendrick beef is that it was like an LA rapper in a very like smart and methodical way, but I don't know if you would call it clever, being like, you're a bad father, I'm sorry to your son, you're a pedophile, I'm going to kill you. And so it's just I like the abruptness of it, you know what I mean? And I think that not that there's any relation with gangs and comedy, but I think LA comedy can be a little more abrupt in that way.
It is interesting. I was thinking about, because we both like to fuck with Joey Cerrone and some other people.
Yes.
Sometimes you do need an outlet. You need an outlet for that guy that knows you're not serious, but you kind of have to, just a guy you are just being like, you fuck dogs.
Yeah. Well, yeah, of course. I mean, anybody that's really nice but also has a good sense of humor and comedy is going to be the person that's like, yeah, they fuck dogs and then they eat the dogs after. If you're just like a really nice guy that's really easy to get along with and you can also like take jokes very well, all people are going to do is call you a pedophile.
Yeah, and if you do really well with pretending to be upset about it, that's the kind of the trifecta.
That's the reaction.
Luke Binkow's the perfect guy to make fun of because the way he reacts is obviously a joke and also funny.
He has great reactions to stuff. He was eating yogurt. I said, why the fuck are you eating yogurt? He said, I'm trying to eat more dairy. And I was like, why would you ever try to eat more dairy? And he was kidding because he's a funny guy.
Anyway.
And now we've talked about comedy too much.
We have. We need to find some other shit.
What's a badass topic?
Oh, fucking, have you ever done cocaine off a weapon?
No.
I remember the first time.
I like to dip cigarettes in cocaine, and I would smoke the cigarette, and I really enjoyed that when I was still drinking and doing cocaine more.
The first time I did cocaine, I was 22. It's pretty late, I feel like. I did it in the parking lot. I don't know the numbers. I did it in the parking lot of a strip club with my buddy off of his knife. And at least I think so. But I remember we thought it was funny to do in the parking lot because a guy had gotten murdered in the parking lot the week before.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's just like full embrace of bad ideas.
Yes.
And that's fun. I mean, because it's kind of like if you're going to do cocaine anyway, you might as well do it in a parking lot where a guy was murdered.
A guy was a homeless guy, was just shot like on that street. And then they went inside the strip club to get a tourniquet or something, or like just to help him out. They were gonna get towels because there was so much blood. And they come back outside, and the guy is just shot in the head. The guy was just bleeding out there, and they just come back. Oh, and now he's dead. He's dead with another shot in his head.
Oh, they shot him when he was getting the towels.
Yeah.
Gosh. Did you ever put cocaine on a cigarette?
No, I haven't.
I've been told by people that it doesn't actually work, but it feels like it works, and it's awesome. Because it burns a lot, so you have a huge flame, and then it bubbles, and then you taste it when you inhale the smoke, and you get a little buzz.
You know what's fun to me is...
It's the coolest way to smoke a cigarette, unequivocally. There's no cooler way.
You know what's fun to me is to try to guess what drugs people are on the street, and I feel so happy when it's true. I remember I was like, there's a guy on PCP, and at first he was just like in the street, and he was yelling at people on the street, and I was like, so, like, I assumed he was on meth, and then he got closer and was listening to what he actually had to say, and I was like, no, that guy's on PCP for sure, because he's like hallucinating that people are there. And then somebody else talked to him, and they were like, yep, he was on PCP, and I felt very vindicated.
That's what he told him? He was on PCP? Yeah. Well, you can have, like, meth psychosis, too.
Yeah, but, like, because PCP is a hallucinogen, and from doing hallucinogens, I could kind of tell where he was.
Gotcha.
Like,
I think we have a cool club because people smoke crack outside of it.
Oh, do they? Because
Yeah.
crack is like, I just don't see crack that much. I
you see a
more
lot
meth.
of people smoking something out of bulbs a lot.
Bulbs is meth. Because, like, it's a chemistry thing. You can't, like, if you smoke a crack out of a bulb, it's, like, less good. I've had this explained to me before.
Yeah, but you still you light glass and then it bubbles in it.
That's meth.
Yeah, but even with crack, you still have a glass tube.
Yeah, but I just don't see the glass tube that often.
Well, maybe I'm not looking closely enough, but either way, people are taking pieces of glass with things in it, lighting the glass and inhaling the smoke right outside of our club.
That doesn't happen
often. I've
Yeah.
seen it enough. They sit on the flower area. They sit technically on the club.
Do you remember?
And they do hard narcotics.
Have you seen the little flower cylinders? The cylinder with the flower in it?
Yeah, those are for crack and stuff.
I remember the first time I saw that.
I think they stopped making those. I think that company got shut down.
I remember
'Cause
there
it's
was
a
gas
flower-
stations in Nashville that used to have like the little the rose one, from what I remember. Like, and like they would have them like kind of behind I remember the first one I saw, I think they were in front of the register.
It's very funny to have a whole company that just sells crack pipes, and you just cover it up by
But
putting
it's like, where else are you going to get them?
putting a flower in it is very funny.
Yeah, I mean, where else? Like, the thing is, it's like...
I'm not saying
it's
where else. I'm just saying, like, the idea of that is to be like, I'm going to start a business, and it's crack pipes.
There's a convenience store in Skid Row. I think that it's like on the building. They say like they're like advertising this stuff. And one of the big advertisements is oil burners, which that's the technical name for meth pipes. It's funny to just advertise like legally oil burners.
The idea is that you would put oil in there, and then
Yeah, I guess, but no one uses it for that.
if you used all those things for what they were for, you're like, I want to get a cute little flower and I want to burn some oils. People are like, are you a meth head? You're like, what?
Yeah, I kind of want some tinfoil and I want a Brillo pad. I just got to wrap some stuff up.
I need a carb on this oil burner.
Yeah, can I get I need to check my my tire. I need to check my tire pressure. Yeah, just hollow it out, actually.
Gosh, we should be doing that. We should be doing that every day.
Yeah, I mean,
we don't do anything cool.
No, we don't. We don't drink alcohol. Sometimes I'll tell people I'm sober, and then it'll come out that I do other drugs, and then I got to be like, well, I just kind of say that.
Yeah, don't say you're sober.
That's not a good thing. I mean, sober I think makes the idea, but it's like the reality is I just don't drink.
But we're more addicted to nicotine than anyone we know.
Yeah.
And that makes us badass.
I guess so, but it's like less badass because I like wasn't really addicted to... I smoked when I was like a teenager, but I don't think I was ever actually like addicted to it to the same extent I am now. I didn't smoke cigarettes for a very long time.
Well, that's fine. That's okay. That's okay.
What was the first cigarette you ever smoked?
It was my dad's pack, and he wasn't a smoker, but around the time the family was falling apart, he would buy packs, and everybody was gone from the house, and I went into his nightstand. I got a Parliament, and I never understood cigarettes, because I was like, why would you smoke something that doesn't get you high and kills you? And then I smoked a cigarette, and the first time I blew out the smoke, I was like, I understand exactly why people do this. This is the greatest like drug I've ever found. I feel so good, and I just feel better.
Yeah.
And I smoked that, and it was awesome.
Maybe like 15?
Maybe 15, 16. And then, and then also, I'm not sure, maybe I had taken in nicotine before, but I also, every day at high school, I would, like, junior and senior year, I would meet up with my friend, and we would smoke 2 spliffs in the morning, and then at lunch, we would, they had bongs, and we would take like black or blue American spirits, and then you would cover the bottom hole, and then cover that with weed, and then cover the whole top of it with more American spirit, and then you take that all at once, and I call it like the heroin of weed because it like kind of knocks you out and then you get really addicted to it. So I would do that every day. And then after school, we would do that again. And then sometimes at night or after school, I'd go to a park and smoke more spliffs. So you'd smoke weed like 3 to 4 times a day, all involving nicotine.
Yeah.
And they would use American Spirits. So then when I started smoking, like one day I just had a pack of Black American Spirits I would use for that. But then I just smoked the cigarette.
Yeah.
And then I started doing mics, and I was too young to go inside of the clubs, like the Improv, and I have to wait outside to do the mic. And so I would just bum cigarettes from people when I was like 17.
Yeah.
And then I would just bum like crazy. And then eventually started buying packs.
You have to, it is interesting at a certain point when you bum so much, you just have to be like, I'm going to start buying like packs. I have to start buying packs.
I remember,
hadn't legally bought a pack of cigarettes until last year.
Yeah.
Like, everything before was like, I should not have been buying this.
I remember I'd bummed so much, and then my friend Keith Ray, who's a very funny comic, was like, well, you got to make a decision, you know? Are you going to quit smoking, or are you going to keep bumming cigarettes from your friends who you know are poor? He's like, you can't just keep doing this.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. But,
yeah, at a certain point of bumming, you start to realize of like, because I feel like a lot of times with bumming, you're telling yourself like, well, I'm not a smoker. You know?
Yeah, there's always a bit of a lie in that. And, you know, I have such a fiend mindset that I pretty much like one of the things I'm best skilled at is having a spreadsheet in my head of how often I've bummed from somebody and knowing, like, if you ask me at the club, like, who has cigarettes, I'll like name everybody there and what kind of cigarettes they smoke. And then I can tell you like the last time I've gotten a cigarette from them. And so like some nights I'll show up and there's like 5 smokers I know and I'm like, damn, I might hit all of them tonight.
Yeah.
And, you know, but then you take time off from people and then you know, and that's why I like really shouldn't like do any drugs. I have a naturally like fiending mindset of just like asking everybody and being very aware of like how to do it in a way that still annoys fucking everybody, but you're not just hitting up one guy.
Oh, I just remembered something really funny I would do when I was new to comedy. Because I was broke, I would just go up to every comedian and ask individually for $1 so I could get McDonald's.
Would it work?
Yeah.
Damn, you were just homeless at the mics.
It was so funny.
Yeah, I do think about that sometimes of like how you can just employ homeless tactics whenever you want. Or I'm like, I guess theoretically I could ask almost everybody I see today for money. And I would probably end up with like $15.
Yeah, I mean, that's food money.
Yeah. But I've never done that. Like, I'll take cigarettes from people and stuff, but I've never, like... Also, if you bum enough, eventually people will just start offering you cigarettes if they have extra cigarettes.
Oh, you know what I did yesterday that I think probably pissed somebody off behind me while I was driving? I was in Studio City, I think, and I was driving through to get to work, and there's just a homeless guy on the sidewalk, you know, and I was behind him, like, at a red light, and... then the right light turned green, and I just slowed down for a second, and I just held out a cigarette, and I just said cigarette, and the guy walked up and took it, and he said thank you.
Nice.
It's just funny to just. I don't even know if this guy smokes, but I assume he does, and so I'm just like cigarette.
Yeah, I think if you're homeless, you smoke.
Yeah.
I remember one time I was giving out water to homeless people, and I asked a homeless guy, I was like, "Do you want some water?" And he was like, "No, I want a cigarette." And I gave him a cigarette, and I was like, "Do you also want the water?" And he was like, "No." Which is why a lot of people don't, I think, understand, like, not that I do, but don't understand homelessness very well, and why also a lot of people stop helping the homeless is it's very hard to help somebody who's been so shit on by the system and everything that it's very hard to accept help at that point. Because I think a lot of people are like, well, if you just, give them stuff, they'll be fine. And it's like, well, no.
Also, if you're homeless, you're just like, you're thinking like, they're offering me water, but I don't like that.
Yeah.
I don't like the taste.
I think it's cool to get to
beer.
It's like accepting that you always smoke, where it's like full acceptance of being homeless is like, why would I do anything I don't like?
Yeah.
I've been so fucked by the world. Doing anything I don't like that would be good for me. What is it good for me if I have some water today? I still live on the street.
Yeah.
I haven't showered. I'm covered in bugs. I'm not going to drink water and turn shit around. So I wasn't surprised when he was like, "No, I want a cigarette." I was like, "Yeah, definitely."
Yeah.
But I also have a jug of water just if you want it later.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, we've been talking for an hour.
And it was bad.
It was how who, some people might like it.
Nobody can handle it is the problem. So
Yeah. Well, all right. I'm going to go, let's go out and smoke. I only really have one cigarette on me, actually, but I have a pack in my car.
Fuck you and fuck the president.
Oh, yeah. These tariffs.
Yeah.
Tariffs.